Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome back to the new Sandling Junction build. Now today I'm going to be showing you how I put this tunnel portal together and how I weathered it up to the point that you see it right now. So without further ado, let's roll that intro and let's see how I got on. Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome back to Sandling Junction. Now, as I said right at the start, I'm going to be showing you how I put this tunnel portal together, and at the same time, more importantly, all the processes that I went through to create the weathering effects on it as you see it right now. For many of you who remember a few weeks ago, I actually engraved this on a brand new laser engraver called the Creality Falcon 2 Pro, the one with that beautiful covered in orange top and the camera that's already built in. Now the design was one from Julian, who very kindly made that for me so I could do this tunnel portal. So yeah, I think I didn't have enough time on that video to do that. It's just too long as it was, and I will put a link to it up there or up there, whichever way it comes up, to that laser engraving video if you're interested, and take a look, and it's still on offer as well. But moreover, I wanted to make this video just how I put it together and all those processes, as I say, to bring it to this point. So without further ado, let's just see what I did to bring it to this stage. Catch you all at the other end. Hi everyone, and a very warm welcome back. Now at the end of the last video, when I introduced you all to the Creality Falcon 2 Pro, I was able to create a tunnel portal, albeit from a design from Julian at Station Road, who very kindly set this up for me. And I did print it. It was my first ever print on the Creality Falcon 2. And the print itself went absolutely well. No problems at all. And it's a really fine engraver. Now the thing is that I absolutely messed this part up. I was going to, or the idea was to literally put this together, paint it up for you and show you how it all looks. Now I completely mucked that up, and the reason, or part of the reason, was that I didn't actually construct it too well, and I had to brace the back, as this will show you. And on top of that, I went and stuck the corbels in completely the wrong place. I'm so sorry, Julian, all the effort you put in, and I should have put them down here somewhere in line with the top of this. Completely mucked that up, as you can see. But I felt that, okay, it's not right. I also went in very quickly with a lot of glue and messed up some of this work through here where the bricks in the engraving came away. Now that, in my opinion, was because I actually had this part of the engraving way too deep. I had the power set and the speed set incorrectly. Did a great job, but it cut so deep that it made these little individual bricks, and especially around here, it made them very, very vulnerable, especially when they got damp. So I had to build another one. Well, in fact, because I need two, I built two more. So I now went back to the Creality Falcon 2 Pro, and I reset all of the settings. So I still got my lovely brick, but it wasn't as deep, it wasn't as fragile. And so having put this one together very badly, I now am going to put these ones together. I'm going to leave this one for the moment, don't need to do both of them today. But I just want to put it together, but I want to paint it up first. That's another thing I should have done. Before I put all of this stuff on, I should have painted up the brick first. And so it's a bit of a glue up and sort out in two parts. I'm going to glue on these facings like here, and then I'm going to paint up the surface, and I will then come back when it's all dry and paint up these, which are the top of the plinths, and also put them in the right place. What a silly boy. Anyway, so there you go. Now you'll notice on some of these where there is a burr mark through here, and it's not just there, it's on this one here, if you can see that, there's a diagonal burn. Now, somebody really kindly on that video pointed out to me that when you do these designs, when you create the designs in Lightburn, you can actually add tabs. And if you add a little tab in 2 or 3 places on the cut around here, then it doesn't fall out. It's really important with things like this, because with the grid system on the Creality Falcon 2 Pro, it's slats, it's not a honeycomb. So small pieces will fall through, lay on the bed at the bottom. Nothing wrong with that, it's perfectly fine. But the laser, when it burns through, will cut, and it doesn't know when to stop. It hasn't got anything to tell it to don't burn through the gaps. So anything laying in its path is going to get burned. But if you put tabs on this as you create the design in Lightburn, or when you come to cut the design and prepare it for the laser to cut it, then of course you won't have anything fall out. It will stay in the wood, and all you do then is use a little craft knife at the very end just to take them out and release them, a little bit like creating a sprue. In a sense, is, you know, when we cut off a sprue for our models and we take a plastic off the sprue, we trim that up, we sand out any excess off the sprue, and we can continue that way. What I'm also doing is a lot of my paints on here are not just for model railways, they are war painters, war paints from, or the army painter. I've got Model Air, I've got model paints, Vallejo, all sorts of different makes and brands of paint. But what I've chosen is a color or a couple of colors to do the base color of this. So the colors I'm using is, or are, should I say, 71042 dark brown, which is a Model Air, ideal for the airbrush, that's why it's Model Air. This is an army painter, and this is one called Troll Claws. Now, fancy names, but they're designed for the miniature model world. Okay, what I do here, this is an agitator. This is a medical agitator. You can buy them online, and don't skimp and buy a cheap one because they don't do a lot of good. But this one will just simply, as you can tell, it's mixing all the paints for me. Now, I've not used many of these. They were given to me as a present by one of my family. Some people, some modelers put little tiny ball bearings, such as these ones, into their tubes of paint. None of these have at the moment, but that just helps with the agitation, no less than you would do with a rattle can. All right, so first things first then, I am going to glue this in place, and I will probably use some tacky glue, quite light tacky glue to be fair. It's very quick and grabby. Okay, so I am obviously using Aleene's tacky glue, but when it comes to these structures, normally I'm never quite sure whether to use a impact glue, you know, such as a fast set glue, or a wood glue, or indeed the wood glue, the tacky glue that I'm using here. I always plump for the tacky glue because I love the fact that it's got a quick grab, and you can sort of get stuff down and it will go off fairly fast, but it will also stop the thing sliding around all the time until it really is where you want it to be. So that's why I use the tacky glue. We're good. All right, so there we are. As this one was, this one now is. Now, why have I got 3 paints out? Well, I've already talked about the brown, and we're going to put a little bit of that out in our pot. I don't know, I'll probably end up putting some more in, but all I want to do is vary the different colors that you would normally see on brick. Now, the one that Julian made from this design is in the blue. I think it's called an engineer's brick, I'm not too sure. But there you can see the 3 different colors, and I'm just quite simply going to lay them on with probably a thick old brush. and then just play around with them. This is probably going to move if I'm not too careful, but I think we're going to come over and we're just going to paint our bricks and maybe mix it up a little bit with other colour. Get rid of any areas that we don't want to leave as wood. Maybe a little bit more red in places. We all know from looking at bridges and buildings with old bricks that they have a variety of different colours that are patterners that occur over time from weather and everything, and all I'm doing is adding different colours to suggest this. I may go back in and add further colours, maybe picking out the odd individual brick, but you see you get, that shows you like that, if the light is going to pick it up, but you can see that there is a variation against the original wood and everything else, so that's what I'm aiming for. Now this whole process keeps going until I'm really happy with what I'm looking at visually on the face of all the bricks, but be aware, don't go too heavy with too many layers, because every time you do that you are also filling up the gaps of the mortar lines between the bricks, and that will cause problems later on. And we're going to have a bit of darker stain, so what I might just do is pick out a really dark black, a real grungy, maybe even, because we've got a lot of browns, a good complementary to brown is a dirty green grungy colour. Something like cultist robe, would you believe? Hopefully that's a little better. Much better. There we go. Alright, now that's quite a sap green colour. And sap green with the brown will make a bit of a dirty colour. Now the thing about sap green is it's quite a transparent value, so it's not going to make too much of an impact, but that sort of greenish colour will help through here. We're going to let this dry, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to start looking at everything else. What I might just do is pick some colours out while this is all drying. Pick some colours out and literally give these colours here a bit of a look at as well. So for that I'm going to look at, dare I say, castle grey. I have no idea until I open the bottle and see what's inside. So let's come in here then and put a little dash of this grey in and see what we've got. Because I've got sort of cement lines, mortar lines between these panels, then I'd rather have them a little darker so that we can play around with dirt and grime and all these other aspects of it. What I'm looking for, just a flat piece of wood. I think I've just found one. A bit of blue tack. Hopefully that will be enough to do the job. So I'm going to mix those two together. One's a little light, one's a little greenish, but mixed together I think we may just come up with something that I can live with. See how that looks. These are definitely going to need a second coat before we put any other sort of grout type material on them. They're soaking it in, and the trouble with this being so thin, you get them too wet and your MDF can bow and bend, so just be aware of that. Now you could also use standard acrylic paint, artist quality paint, if you wanted to. It's slightly gutsier, and some of these commercial paints, no disrespect to the people who make them, they are made with a lot of fluid to go through airbrushes, acrylic bulking mediums, and flow stuff so that they don't clog your mechanism, which is fine, no problem with that. But it's all at the cost, really and truly, in my opinion, and it is only my opinion, of the quality, or not the quality, the quantity, let's say, of pigment inside the paint. And you don't need artist quality acrylics, you can go with student quality acrylics. They've still got an awful lot of good pigment in them overall, certainly for this job. Alright, I'm going to let those dry off. They're very, very patchy. They will need another coating. So I'm going to leave that alone and I will take a break and I'll come back when these are all dry. Carry on. Alright, these aren't exactly dry, but I'm just going to come in with some slightly thicker paint on them now to see if we can't get a better coat overall, of which we can then base our grout colours on further on. Okay, so I think that's a good enough second coat, and we're going to let those dry up thoroughly before we do any more. But what I'm going to do is pour off some of this white and grey in here. And what I might just do, mix the whole darn lot together and add some water to that. You can always add a little bit more of a yellowish colour, and I can add in a bit more white should I want to. I could go back to what colour did I use before? I mixed up, didn't I? This one. Banshee brown. Well, we can add a bit of that in just as a little bit of, oh no, I haven't mixed that one at all. But if you use too much of your pigments, then you're wasting a lot of pigment here. For what we want, there's an awful lot of pigment in there. I don't want pure white because I think that's wrong. But I do want some white, and I don't want to have too much water. Too much water with acrylics will make it so vulnerable that it won't dry and bond properly and can flake off. So you don't really want to take your paints less than about 18 to 20% related to water. However, there are an awful lot of things like flow aids and other mediums that are pure acrylic binders, and they can be put in instead of water and still get that fluidity that you're seeking without going too mad. And let's just see what happens. This, I think, is dry enough to continue. And I'm going to try a little bit just to see. Now, as I do this, I'm now going to carefully get a fresh piece of towel. Ever prepared I am, as you can see. A little bit of towel just to take off any excess very carefully, because the wood is vulnerable. More of a tapping action may be better. But what it's doing is it's giving you the mortar courses, but it's also subduing the amount of colour on here. I've got quite a watery mix of this colour that I'm going to put on and use for the grout. Now, I put some on there, I'm going to put some more in there. Now the other colour underneath has dried, I think I can get away with it. Keep turning your paper, dab off as much as you possibly can. Interestingly, I can see I've missed a little place here and there. Let's go and put that back in. I think dabbing off is, and you can see there how that looks. And I'm not displeased with that. I think that's good. I like that. It's not too dissimilar to this one, to be fair. A couple of areas that I have missed, so just going to come back in there and do that. And another thing is that there is always a variation. If you look at those, they're upside down. I know it's just the way I'm holding them. But there is a variation in the mortar lines, the mortar colour. But if you feel that it's too dry where you are, and you need to stop and do it in small stages, probably better than just going gung-ho and hoping for the best. Rub a little harder in places. A couple of places here that got kicked out when it come to damage, but they will disappear with weathering, I'm sure. So there you go. I think here you can see the variation within the mortar lines, the brickwork, and you know, could allow for hardness of water over the many years. And we're going to weather this up as well once we're finished, but it's just to give you a basic idea that almost with a couple of darker colors, browns and reds and ochres, and then just a sort of a medium warm gray, then you get a nice looking characterized tunnel portal that does look as though it's been there for donkeys of years. Now it's the undercoat in a sense that we've put on already, which will give this its overall finished look. Try and make sure that you fill these voids, otherwise there's just little purpose to it. Just lifting off enough of that top surface, the faces, to allow the darker colour of the slab to appear underneath and give rise to the idea that there are mortar lines. But of course, this is how a block may appear when it's brand new and just been laid in the last couple of years or so. So once this is done and once it's all glued up, my idea is then to weather said blocks, make them look as though they are anything but just laid. To me, that grey looks like an old granite, which is probably something similar to what would have been used in the day. Alright, I think I'm going to stop there. Let all this dry up, clean everything off, and take it from there. And then all I've got to do is put this together, glue it all up, and weather it down. Nothing at all, really, is it? Okay, let's go and let's get on, and I'll see you all in the next bit. Okay everybody, welcome back. Now this has had a whole night and a day to dry off, and I'm quite happy with the outcome. There is a little bit of physical evidence through maybe a little rough handling. I don't know if that's the norm, but I'm not unduly worried by any of that. I quite like these capping stones, the way they've come up. They're not heavy, but they're subtle, and I think that they work quite nicely, so I'm going to be happy using those. So I think the first thing I've got to do is to glue this out like so. Now this for me, when I did the other one, I will show you this one again, when I did this one, was rather a difficult process. I just didn't do a very good job of it, so I'm going to sort of bear that in mind with this one, and I'm going to glue this one up, and then I'm going to leave it again for an evening and a day to dry off most thoroughly, and then we'll come back and I will then hopefully finish this and weather this up. So here goes nothing. Let's see what happens. Okay, now I'm going to put that on there like that, and hopefully that will sit. Now if I put it as it is flush end to end, because you can't cut angles easily on an engraver, but if you come around there, then you'll see the obvious problem is that we end up with a weak joint here. And this is where I decided that maybe if I pre-cut some coffee stirrers, which I have an abundance of them, and I bought them years ago and I've never ever used them. So if I just trim those flush, where's my knife? Not the one I was looking for. Come on, where are you? Well, that one will do. No, I want that one. So, okay, I'm going to cut these off flush. Just going to mark this flush at the bottom, just going to mark it to about there, and I'm going to cut these into 4. If I get these right, then the idea is just to make a couple of pieces of wood that will stick to the back and form an extra bit of strength as a brace on the back of the things. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, I think of a plan B. Okay, so let me just run some glue down these parts here. Now with that little bit of plastic in the top, I hope it will have a better run of glue. I could probably use the impact glue, you know, the fast drying stuff, but never ever enjoy having good time with that. I really don't. So I'm going to just put that on there for the moment. Okay, this is quite a crucial stage, adding the wings to the tunnel portal itself, and they are very weak joints at this point, so that's what made me decide to add the bracing at the rear of them. Now others out there of you are watching this and thinking, oh my goodness, what is he doing? I don't know if this is wise or stupid, but I think even if it's not needed, it's probably better than doing nothing. In hindsight, I do think that adding those extra pieces behind the back of the tunnel was a good idea. All right, so one capping, then we're going to put that in. Not too much glue, just a little bit to make it sit. Okay, so what I'm doing now is just finishing off the build by adding all these painted capping stones, and once it's all dry and once it's all together, then I can start putting on all the weathering powders. And it really is a good idea to make sure that everything that you need to be weathered is already in situ, already in place, so that when you do add the powders, that all comes together as one unit. All right, so I'm going to call it a day on here, and hopefully by the end of this I can then just put these parts on, let them dry, and do some weathering, and hopefully present you with a finished tunnel portal. Welcome back, and this has dried off very nicely, and I think that although this doesn't look pretty on the back, I think it was a good idea to make this a stronger bond just by reinforcing with some wood on the back here in the form of a couple of coffee sticks cut down and put into that position. And it's really quite a rigid structure, and this one isn't bad either because of I put some card on the back of it. So what I'm going to just finish off now is get the glue, and I'm going to sort of pay a little bit of caution to the wind and do this job, but then hopefully I can do a bit of weathering just to finish this off. So first and foremost, if the glue comes out, because I forgot to put the lid back on, as often we do these things. Oh, look at that, sweet. There you go, just going to put that on. Now the position of this, unlike this one, which was very wrong and I was very stupid, I didn't think, I think it's about there. I'm going to put it. Hopefully that's about right. Going to make sure it's nice and level. So I could count down the bricks, but I'm not going to. I'm going to eyeball it, but I think that's okay. And start that there, let that run across the face there just ever so slightly, so it runs in a continuous line and looks like it's going back in on a recess. Now a lot of dirt and grime. Going to bring some other powders in, just some dirt and grime underneath these areas here. You can wipe them out, you don't have to have them totally present. You can drag them down. And a little bit of red into there as well, a little bit of rust. Okay, so I'm using the full range of Humbrol weathering powders to do this, and I think it's a good tip either to have some coloured reference on a laptop or on a pad or something alongside you, magazines or books showing lots of different types of brick facing, where you can see all the aged patina that has occurred over the bricks, and then you can slowly build up the different degrees of color and that you're looking for to render your bricks looking real.
Now, because these are weathering powders, if you don't fix them, eventually they will rub away and disappear, which might be not a problem. If you don't think you've done a great job, you want to add to it later on, you can do that. Let it go and see what happens. If, however, you want to keep your job nice, then you may want to have to come back in and seal them off with a matte sealer of some description, Humbrol or one of the other proprietary brands. All I'm trying to do is just mess this up a little bit to suggest age and weathering. And what I've been trying to do, not successfully I don't think, is trying to suggest the runoff of weather, you know, over time. Streaks of dirt and grime have just found their way cascading down and create stains and marks and dirt on these things.
Okay, so on Sandling Junction, I do love my steamers. I have a large fleet of steamers, and I love nothing more than to make things look really sooty and really dirty. And this is just the way of doing a traditional tunnel portal, where you've got all that smoke and dirt and grime above the apex of the tunnel portal.
I'm going to bring a little bit of grime on some of these cappings.
I think it's also important to dirty up some of the cappings and make them look as old as everything else. You can always add a few new ones in, but I think it adds to the overall effect.
Now, my bridge is looking pretty disgusting, pretty old now, and I'm not too unhappy with that. If you're not happy with yours, you can stop at any point. I'm just doing what I'm doing. You can stop at any given moment and back out and come back in with something else, or just literally stop whenever you feel that you're happy about doing that. Just going to bring in just a little bit of ghosting of white in one or two places. You know, you get that sort of, if I can make it happen, I'm going to try and bring in a suggestion that you get the sort of hard watermarks from Humbrol are working. Just want to bring some, not pure white, I want to drag it out and just create the sense of water that's come down, hard water from the area.
Okay, at this point I really felt that I'd overdone the hard water effects on the faces of the bricks, but I also knew that if I sprayed it, it should tone it down. At least I hoped that it would in this case.
What I call about spray varnish, and it's the same for artists when they are setting their pastels or their charcoals, when we call it fixing. It's no different to this stuff. This is just like chalk powders. In fact, you can use very expensive Humbrols. I have boxes of cheap pastels that I crumble up and crush. All of them work just as well as each other. It's just pigment and a binder, and that's normally a gum. So anyway, when you spray them, I call it the great leveler, the great unifier in many ways, because it brings all these colors down. They start to merge in contrast, and the contrast reduces and equalizes out a little bit more. And that's why often when you do weather your locomotives with powders, if you put too much spray on, you tend to lose the powder. It's gone, it sinks away, it disappears, and that's because it just becomes leveled by that spray that you've put on. So if you don't want to lose the effect, then be reluctant to spray it with anything. It does mean to say that once it's on there, eventually you may have to redo it a little bit, but if you want to keep it, then you do run the risk of actually just taking some of that away, because you've sprayed it and you've fixed it. It's there, it's not going to change now, but it may not be as vibrant as you first thought it was going to be. So it's just a little bit of warning, or at least a caveat to that you can do. I'm going to go and spray this now, and we'll come back up and see what the final outcome is. Okay, so that's the final outcome. I could spend more time on it, of course, and I could do other things and change things and increase things or take things away. I have sealed this one. As I said, it has muted and brought many of the pigments together tonally, so it sort of makes a less of a contrast and evens out the playing field. And I think that's a really nice thing with this. It just depends how far you want to go with it, but I'm really pleased with actually how this, can I get it in the camera properly, how this has turned out. But yeah, I'm really quite pleased with the way that's come. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've had got something from it. I'm sorry it sort of dragged out a little bit between the first video and this one, but I do hope you understand why it does take time to do these things. And I do like, although I'm a little bit of a long-winded person when it comes to talking and doing stuff, I do like to show you as much of the process as I possibly can, and so that you get something from it to take on with your own designs, layouts and structures and weathering techniques.
Hey everybody, I do hope you enjoyed that, and I had a lot of fun doing this. Now what I wanted to say at the end of this video are a couple of things. One is, what you saw me do was just my way of doing it. It's not the only way. There are tons of ways of creating weathering effects on buildings and structures like this, and I stopped when I felt that I was happy with the result. You could have stopped a lot sooner, and you could keep on going as long as you want to. That's the whole idea of the weathering process. It's almost like a painting. So the other thing I wanted to say is this, that if you've got any comments about this or any other aspects of my videos, please put them in the comment section below the video, or any other videos. I'll always read them and I'll always respond to them. And if you are not a subscriber to my channel, but you feel that I've done enough work in this or any other of my videos to warrant your subscription, please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything to do that, but it really does help me reach more people, and it gives me the encouragement to keep on making video content for you guys to enjoy. So yeah, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't hurt you, but it really helps me. Until the next one, take care everybody. Enjoy your layouts, enjoy your modeling, have fun. Catch you all very, very soon. Bye bye.